Hi, I'm Nick Rosenlicht.
I'm Nick Vedder.
And Susan Heckbert, Nick's wife.
And we're going to tell two stories. One of Nick and I, who've known each other since we were about 2. And the story of Nan, the Mini Cooper that we've shared.
Yeah.
You want to talk about our...
We've been friends since I was 1 and he was almost 2. From this story that we have heard different versions from our mothers who are both gone now, so they can't tell the real story. But
They never did.
the story that I remember was we were in Evanston, Illinois, and both playing in a mud puddle in one of the parks. And Nick's mother, Carla, came over and said, "Nicky, get out of that mud puddle right now." And my mother came over and said, "Don't you dare talk to my son that way." So we both found out that we were Nicky. And our mothers were friends ever since, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, so that would have been, around 1957 or so?
56, 57, yeah.
So in 59, I moved to California.
Right.
But what we thought was for us, but we now realize that being parents was for them, they one summer shipped each of us to the other's house for several weeks. And
when Nick was in Chicago, we went to the Museum of Science and Industry and got this photo of the two of us driving a turn-of-the-century car in the Museum of Science and Industry. That's my brother and sister behind.
So this would be, 63 or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, 1963 or so, yeah.
And then we got back together again when I went to Stanford. And I remember coming up and meeting, playing with your cars in the garage before as I was moving up there. And first day of college for me, I met my wife, Susan Heckbert, that same first day, and we've been together ever since. And then the second year, I didn't have a car the first year. The second year, we had at home in Evanston a 67 Mini Moke.
You need to tell the story of how you guys got that.
Well, so in 6th grade, my father had moved us to London. So I was living in London for that year for my whole 6th grade. And my project for 6th grade was to write a diary. That's all I had to do, was travel around London as a kid writing a diary.
I didn't know that.
And on our way back, my dad bought a Mini Moke that he had shipped to Evanston. And so that was my car in high school. And then second year of college at Stanford, my dad paid to fly Nick back.
Well, because you wanted to bring it to Stanford.
I wanted to bring it to
and
Stanford.
Your parents refused to let you drive it cross country.
That's right. So Nick
I was flown out as the mechanic.
Right. And you brought tools with you.
I brought tools.
And we drove the Mini Moke across the country to Stanford. And it had a top speed of about 50 or something like that, 55. So we used to draft behind the trucks
all
when
the
we
way.
could. Do roadside oil changes along the way. So I had that for a number of years. And then when I went off to study in Europe, Susan and I went off to study in Europe in junior year, I gave the Moke to Nick. And so you had it in Berkeley.
I had it for a summer, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then what happened to it?
What event? Ultimately?
The Moke, yeah.
Well, ultimately, you reclaimed it after I had a little adventure where it had been converted by a mechanic in Chicago to negative ground. And they, in doing that, they turned the battery around. And I was driving in the Berkeley Hills, and the battery shorted out against the brake line. So I the same time, had a battery fire and no brakes. But I did get it stopped.
But you pulled up on the emergency brake.
Oh, the emergency brake.
And the wire broke.
And the wire broke. But I did get it stopped without further incident.
Yeah.
But you kept it for a while and used to use it to deliver the Stanford newspaper.
I did. I delivered the Stanford Daily with it. I would drive it through the quad, delivering the Stanford Daily every morning.
You could drive it anywhere
on
campus.
It was great.
Well, it looked like a golf cart.
It did. Looked like a golf cart.
So he took the Moke back, and I decided I had to have a Mini. So I think it was a 66 Cooper S that I had for a couple years and enjoyed very much. And then Nick really liked the Cooper S, realized it was a little quicker than the Moke.
Yeah.
So
when I was studying abroad in England, so Stanford's overseas campus was actually at the Cliveden Estate, which is the old Astor Estate, really nice place. Susan was studying in Tours, but I went there, and while I was there, I bought this 67 Mini Cooper S that we drove throughout Europe.
So this is 76 or so, 75?
Yeah,
okay.
Right. This would be 76, 1976. Okay. So there's a picture of Susan with the first Mini off the coast of England, Robin Hood's Bay, and we drove throughout England, throughout Europe, camping out of the back of it for almost a couple of months. Brought it back to Stanford, and there it is at the SAE parking lot at Stanford. And I used to have to park it up at the top because sometimes the battery would run out and I have to do a running start to get it going.
Yeah.
But I eventually sold that to some guy up here in Berkeley, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year, Susan and I graduated a quarter early so that we could go back to Europe again. And we had planned to go back. And just before we went back, we went hiking in Yosemite.
Oh, here we are.
With Nick, and I remember as we were hiking in Yosemite talking about Weber carburetors, how we'd have to get a Weber carburetor
For our next
the
Mini.
next Mini.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we went back, and I did get the next Mini, and this was I remember flying into Heathrow, taking the tube to Paddington Station, and then I would go to the newspaper stand and buy an Exchange and Mark that I would thumb through and look through the Mini section, and I found a Radford Mini Cooper S, and so I got out my tuppence and started plugging them into the phone booth, and called this guy, and went down there and saw it, and as you remember, he made us tea and toast.
Tea and toast.
That's right. So I wound up buying this 66 Radford Mini Cooper S for 900 pounds. And then we drove it throughout Europe. And this is the map of our trip throughout Europe, all the way down through...
You did that with your mother in 1977.
Well, I did it for my mother.
Oh, okay.
I wrote this.
Her mother
My
annotated
mother
it.
annotated it, yeah.
So we drove from England across, and then through France, down through Italy, Rome. We took the Brindisi to Patras car ferry over to Greece, came up through Greece and Yugoslavia, Austria, Germany, and then back to England where I had
West Germany.
Well, we went through West Germany.
West Germany,
There was
yeah.
East Germany back
Yeah,
then.
And that was Yugoslavia back then.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. And we went through Spain too, didn't we?
Not on that trip.
It was another trip.
Spain was a different.
Different trip. Anyway, and then I shipped it back from London to New York,
Right.
where we picked it up and
And
then
drove it.
drove it across country. Yeah.
And
So we were entering med school at that time, and this is
I forgot this
we
story.
had, in Europe we had a slow radiator leak, and so we solved that by going to the auto parts store across the street from the Vatican and buying some Tura Fale per Radiatore, which is basically Bart stop leak
In Italian.
in Italian.
But it's blessed by the Pope.
Blessed by the Pope. Yeah. So we had holy water running through our.
And you also put the Weber on it.
And I did put the Weber on it, and I put those new wheels on it.
Wheels,
Yeah.
new subframes.
Brand new subframes. Yep. And then
Front rear.
then sprayed the bottom with wax oil
Okay.
in the
right.
stables at Clifton.
Clifton later became,
Oh, it's now a fancy hotel.
and also wasn't
Yeah.
it filmed for Toad Hall?
So it was the original Toad Hall in Wind of the Willows was Clifton.
The exterior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exterior. Yeah.
But also you got the Weber at like a auto parts shop in London or
Oh
something.
yeah, there's a place on the North Ring Road where I got all this stuff.
Mhm.
I got new brakes, I got the new wheels, I got the carburetor. We got the Momo wheel in
Somewhere in Italy.
a
Was it
flea shop in
Florence or-
No, it's an Abarth wheel.
Abarth wheel,
Yeah.
right? And some flea shop in Rome.
Since it's been upgraded
Yeah.
to the less than wheel.
So then this is the Mini back at my parents' house in Evanston, Illinois, and you can see that
God
hideous
awful.
robin egg blue color of it. And this is me and Susan at Thanksgiving in 19...
Probably Christmas.
Christmas, yeah,
Yeah.
1977? Yeah, 1977,
Mhm.
yeah. And so we would drive it back and forth between Cleveland, where we were going to med school, and Evanston. And then after our first year of med school, we took it to my parents' garage in Evanston. And
It was your summer car though, usually.
it was our summer car, right?
Yeah.
We only drove it in the summer,
Yeah.
but we got a sandblaster from Sears and sandblasted off all the paint in my parents' garage. There's still sand on top of the garage door opening.
Yeah.
And then Susan masked it off, and we got some Binks, spray kits and spray guns, and repainted it. What we thought was a really cool color, 70s, BMW Topaz. And there's Susan again modeling it in our backyard of our place in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, where we went to med school. And we just loved that car. And then a year
How
later,
many times have you driven it cross country?
Oh, bunch of times. So we drove it back to the West Coast. This is in Susan's parents' backyard.
It's 1981 now.
In San Jose.
San Jose.
Yeah. So it must have crossed the country again.
No, this is like 79. This is before.
Oh yeah.
This is like 79.
We were
okay.
still in med
Yeah.
school, maybe.
Okay.
And so Susan actually made the front and rear wiring harnesses from this. We went to, what was the name of that place? The Osh.
Osh, yeah.
Yeah, Osh
Orchard
Hardware.
Supply Hardware.
Yeah.
And Susan made the wiring harnesses that are still in the car today.
That's right. They're very nice with those printed boards with the screws.
Yeah.
Well, you got a consultation from your dad, who was
Well, my dad's an electrical engineer, yeah.
he taught at San Jose
And
State.
we had the manual that showed the whole wiring diagram. So, it isn't rocket science. You just do what it says.
Yeah.
So that's how we rewired it. And so this was our winter car. So we would store the Mini at my parents' farm in the shed in rural Illinois, and I bought this '65 Ford Fairlane for $150 that had the front was all rusted out, so you could see the road at your feet.
So we
had to put sheet metal down,
yeah.
but we would call it the Fred Flintstone Mobile. And so this is actually driving the car around Seattle. We were going to Mount Rainier for a trip,
Yeah.
and that's me. And that's Nick, and there's Rusty and Nick's first wife, and the muffler had fallen down. So there's Rusty with the muffler there.
Uh-huh.
And what's Rusty's company?
RPR Volvo Parts.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
For
Rusty.
years he ran that.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention how the Mini got its name.
Oh, that's right. When we first got the Mini,
Yeah.
we were driving it through England, and we went down to see one of my father's business partners, Gilbert Hughes, in Brighton. And we parked it out on the street, and in the evening he said, "Do you want to move Nan into the garage?" We said, "Nan?" Well, this was the
Her
license plate. Nan 983D. So ever since then, she's been Nan. Yeah. So anyway, after 5 more years, so we had the car for 11 years, I guess. And we were about to go off to Boston for me to do my residency in plastic surgery. And Nan needed another rebuild. And this is me looking fairly dejected with the prospect of another rebuild on Nan. But I did get new body panels put on. We put it in storage. Went to Boston.
New body panel was the new
wings,
left
wing and a door,
yeah.
and a couple of others we put on, yeah. Then we put it into storage, went off to Boston.
Decided against that.
And
you put it off and put it into storage.
And so when we moved back to Mercer Island, Washington, it sat sideways in our garage under the steps to the attic for 22 years.
Yeah. And there's a new panel right there.
Yeah, and there's
you
one
can
of
see
the new panels.
Yeah.
And then we moved. And when we moved to our new house on Mercer Island, the garage
2013.
wouldn't fit the Mini anymore. So what did we do? We gave it to Nick.
Without consent.
So Nick came down and looked at it here and was kind of shaking his head.
Yeah.
But we were very happy to put Nan on the truck to get shipped off to Berkeley. Bye-bye, Nan.
Yeah.
And there's Nick
That's
starting
that's after
Now it's been painted.
after it's been painted.
Yeah,
here.
been painted here. So Nick did just an amazing rebuild job, and that's just us. That's me and Susan and Nick and Nick's wife Kelly at Bouchard Gardens in Victoria, BC. We go sailing in Canada every summer, and we're still very best of friends. So
Despite the Mini.
that's the story of Nan.
Yeah.